Yeah, hi everyone. This is how I went this week. A little disappointing as I went down 367 in ranks. Still in the top 9k. Didn't go down by that much, but yeah, still not what I wanted. Just around rank of 24,407, which isn't that great. Score of 2,357, which is okay. I'll check out my team. There's a few players. I traded Dacos for a reason, which I'll talk about in a minute. So Dawson 92, a little disappointing. It was like on 100, I think, at 3/4 time that went off. I don't know what happened there. Like, I don't mean it went off, I mean his score just decreased. So it's something, he must have made a few clangers and didn't do that much in the last quarter because he was expecting to get 120, which would have been great. So a little bit annoyed about that because not everyone owned Dawson. Bailey Dale, 118. That's good response this week from Dale. Happy with that. After a poor performance last week. Hewitt, 94. That's okay, I guess. Not his best, Hewitt, but everyone has him, so there's no really point to no point to not really. There's no point in talking about it. Short, 100. That's okay. He made it to a ton finally. Hasn't really done that often lately. So hopefully he can keep getting more hundreds. Should I trade him? I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. There's still a few rounds left. I don't want to use up another trade. Only really short, only really little to gain from it. And same with Cresp 91. These two have just been underperforming in the second half of the season so far. And if you would probably trade out one of them, which I probably should have traded out one of these two instead of Dacos at the moment. The problem is though, these two are actually cheaper than Dacos. Dacos is now 550,000, and it's like, So I traded Dacos for B Ulan, so that way I can get English in, that was a disaster this week for English, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We're 77, great cover, support from him, happy with that. Makes the Dacos trade not as, bad, I guess, but obviously I'd rather the 160, so it's like 90 points minus English score, so 40 points, so it would have been 40 points better off at Dacos this week, including the donut, so it's one of those things that you just can't predict. Like, who was expecting to get Dacos 160? No one. And obviously, Stewart and these two are out. It's a bit risky. I was hoping to bring in Burgoyne, even though he's a bit more dear. I think it was a medical sub in the end. It didn't really quite work out. So hopefully there's no nonsense in the back line for the rest of the year. In terms of midfield here, we've got Laird, VC, which will end up being a good option. So I'm kind of happy with that. Took the gamble because he's had previous history of scoring well against Collingwood, so I took the VC option and won that battle, which sort of kept me in the game this week. 110 for Miller. It was Gold Coast's best player. Otherwise, everyone else performed either just average or well below par. It's pretty disappointing from Gold Coast. I went to the game and there was just no ego or hunger for them this week. I reckon they were too tired from last week's performance. They pushed their bodies to the limit last week, that's for sure. Neil, 121. Okay from Neil. If you had him as VC, you may be a little annoyed, or had him as a captain. Better than last week. He's dropped off, I think, the last few weeks, Neil. So hopefully he bounces back. Well, everyone has him, so it's not a big deal. Same with McRae, 128. That's okay from McRae. It's your standard score. Brayshaw, 96. A little disappointing, considering Fremantle were expected to win this game. He failed to get 100. So a little annoyed. I mean, he said the last couple of weeks have been good, but not everyone owns Brayshaw. So it's a little frustrating. He failed, didn't make the 100. Not a terrible score, not his worst. There's other problems this week. That's for sure. And you got Mills, 116. That's okay. Not his best, not his worst. Just your standard score. Cripps, 84. So if you got rid of Cripps for Steele, it's probably the right option, right move. Should I have done that instead? look, I'm still on the fence about doing it. He's probably the only midfielder that I don't really want my side. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with every midfield selection. And Heaney, 104. Look, decent score from Heaney. After a couple, other than last week, couple previous weeks of poor scores, he's bounced back the last couple of weeks, same as Sydney. So if Sydney do well, Heaney generally does well, I reckon. So hopefully, and the reason why I put him in the midfield is to swing, I think swing Rioli. Is it Rioli or Clark? With Heaney, that way I can bring in Curtis in. That way I didn't have a donut. So look, that worked fine. And hopefully Oliver comes back in. I think Greg Clark, I don't know if he plays again. He might. And Owens, I don't think he's going to play again. And Ruck said this is another disappointment as well as with my ruckman this week. I don't think none of the ruckman went well this week. So O'Brien 53, very disappointing. Gets what average? I mean, Cameron's done all right, Darcy Cameron, but he's not the best ruckman. Disappointing from O'Brien. 53 is not good enough. Getting an 80 or a 90 is acceptable. 53 didn't even make 60. Nah, I'm not good enough. I was really annoyed about that because he's a pod. Not many people have him. He's performed well the last couple of rounds, so it hasn't been a disaster. But you know, when you have a player that not many people own that performs poorly, it's a real kick up the arse. That's for sure. Luke Toll. Tinkle for Darcy, so I got Darcy's score of 94, which isn't the best. I mean, I think a lot of people have Darcy in their team, so it's not a huge big deal. So hoping he went big against Sydney's ruckman, depleted ruckman. I think Hickey came in. I don't think Hickey did that well either. So I was really expecting Darcy to get that 120 plus score, or at least get above 110. Unfortunately, that didn't happen either, which is a little frustrating. Yeah, look, if you VC Bontempelli here, you'll be laughing. 181 by far his best performance this season. It's just we haven't really seen this Bont in a while, I don't think. Like him performing that well, which makes him the clear number one forward to have on your side. Brought him in at the right time. And then Tim English brought him in. Look for Roses because I thought, oh, well, Roses isn't going to. He's out for 2 weeks and English price went down. I thought, oh, I better bring in English. And it hasn't quite worked out. 51 is just not good enough. I know he's playing against Ryder and Marshall, which are two good ruckmen. But look, you got to be at least getting 80. That would have been acceptable. And I think I've actually lost points from that trade. If I had held on to Dacos for a week, I would have gained, or minus the wear score, so it would have been 90 minus 50. It would have been a 40 plus on field plus, and that's with the donut as well. So that's just a bit unlucky with that one. Hopefully he bounces back English. He's still recovering from the injury, so. Will Brodie, 84, not the best, not the worst. Well, he's been fairly consistent, Brodie. He hasn't had any poor scores unlike a lot of players. So look, it's not the ideal, but Freo weren't that great for the last 3 quarters of the game. Luke Parker, 92, that's okay. Considering Sydney won, it was a little disappointing, I guess. You expected him to score a bit more. But look, everyone's brought him in their side, or most players anyway. At least the top players have brought him in. So it's not a big deal. 80 from Dunkley. Yeah, a little disappointing from Dunkley considering Bulldogs won. He's dropped off a bit in the last few weeks, the last month. He's just, not quite the same. So hopefully he can bounce back. He's like 500k now, so he's gone down a fair bit. And Curtis, 83, happy with that. Look, he outscored English and Dunkley. So what I can say is he kicked 3 goals, 3 crucial goals, and played a huge part in North Melbourne's winning. And it was probably the difference in the end, 3 straight from him. I think Jack Revolt got 2-6. So that helped me a bit. It wasn't a complete disaster. Rookies actually played all right this week, which saved me this round from a bit of a disaster week. So it's probably a good thing that I hold on to Curtis. He probably stays in my side as backup for the rest of the season. Now, hopefully Oliver comes back in. That should be fine for the midfield. Other than Cripps, I'm pretty happy with the midfield. Defence needs a bit of work. Unfortunately, probably could maybe bring that Sinclair or what's his name, Doherty, which I can afford a Doherty. Get rid of what Cripps, Cresp or Short. Not too sure who to get rid of. They're both in the same par at the moment, same page as me, same page. So look, I don't know who to get rid of. Probably no trades this week unless an injury. I was going to think about getting rid of Heaney for Smith, which I could afford, but I'll wait a week, see if Smith starts performing a bit better. He still performed okay. He, wait and see. I don't want to waste trades for just, like an extra 10, 20 points a week. It's not really worth it when you could, have a couple of injuries and then boom, you lose 100 points or something. Yeah, well, that's it. Thank you for watching.